Uh, my name is Kinjang Tile from Bhutan. So before I approach my questions, I pray for your long life and good health for the sentient beings, Your Holiness. Uh, my question is, as a Buddhist, I have lots of debate with the Muslims and then the Christian people. So what they said is that what they have the intention is that once we follow the Buddhism, so it is we are not we having consuming meat is against the religion. But what I have seen is that every in the world, all Buddhists they consume the meat a lot, and then we have a debate that the Muslim people what they said is that if there is no buyer, there is no killer. So since the Buddhists are eating the meat, the Muslim were used to kill that animals. So what I feel is that what is the reason behind that we Buddhists actually it is against the religion. So what is the reason behind we Buddhists consumes lots of meat? So that's the question.
Yes, sir. Huh? Actually, the Buddhist monk, no personal kitchen. Baking bowl, carry baking bowl, and go. And then one family, which non-vegetarian, they give non-vegetarian food. You should accept. And then those who family strict vegetarian, they give food. You have no right to demand, I want this and that. See, Buddha, no kitchen. And all these great masters, you see, they carry a baking bowl like that. And then in Buddhist sort of text, some text, you see, certain sort of the or kasur shukti. Cheval shoma in kasa, then do it six or kasa. Cheno kanda, but Vinaya Sutra, there is some distinction. Certain meat prohibited. So certain meat, okay. So in any way, you should not eat meat out of your demand. Meat available, then okay. And then some text, you see, strictly emphasis, we should be vegetarian, like that. So, I think many Chinese Buddhists and Vietnamese Buddhists, very strict vegetarian. Tibet, I think the geographical sort of situation, and northern part of Tibet is no vegetation, no fruit. So, and because that circumstances, you see, we not very much emphasis vegetarian. Then, after we came to India, the plenty of vegetable, fruit. Therefore, all those big monastic institutions, they are common kitchen. Now, I think at least 20 years, you see, we strictly, also also they using vegetarian food, no longer any non-vegetarian food. And similarly, some institution, including some school, their common kitchen, not serving non-vegetarian food, like that. And then my own case, 1964, I decided become vegetarian. So then, according to my friend, I took a lot of nuts. So then I remained vegetarian, as a vegetarian, around 20 months. Then I developed problem, the gallbladder problem. Then whole my body become yellow. So sometimes I jokingly telling, at that time I truly become living Buddha. So whole body yellow, not through spiritual practice, but through illness, bodily speaking, I become living Buddha. So then, I think a few weeks, very serious. And then, according to allopathic medicine and Tibetan medicine, they advise me, better now return the previous my diet. But then I take meat, including my own kitchen, and many serving vegetarian food, like that. And I, because of that, so occasionally take a non-vegetarian food, like that. So now it is really encouraging in Europe, and I think America also. Now more and more people now showing interest about vegetarianism. This country, India, I think the vegetarian food, wonderful, very good. In Bhutan, I don't think much of vegetarian food. I think mainly is samba.
Nowadays we have maximum vegetarian.
Your survey. Wonderful. So it is really, I think when we see beef farm and fish, people no feeling about fish, their life, limitless fish. And then beef farm. The environment Kasuta issue also using beef farm, very harmful, like that. So it is useful to promote vegetarianism. Very, very good, very important. Okay. Next question.
Good morning, His Holiness. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chama from Lovely Professional University. So my question is regarding these three things: tradition, modern science, and modern education. So we see as modern science and modern education advances, tradition is lagging behind. And in this 21st century that we're living in, as youths, millennials, we find ourselves juggling between being traditional or keeping traditional values and living in the modern education, living in the modern science, trying to balance between the two. And then we fail to do these things, hence leaving the traditional ways to our old folks, and we're not practicing them. So my question is, what can you advise us, and what can we do to help ourselves preserve our traditional values? And as education advances and modern science advances, how can we make sure that also tradition should advance along, and how can we preserve it for our next generation? Thank you.
어.
그냥 누나 좋아지다 가서 로종 신유 속에 망고치기 때 초직내 몸에 룩수이 망고치 진이 되나야 대디버를 데스지 마당도 아니 인디다 좋아디 먼저 중앙에 리쇼도 양사 체험
Basically, different culture of different people, different community. You see, the culture is, I think, through some kind of evolution, evolution way. So it is suitable according to the environment, the particular area. But then also, traditional cultural heritage. Now, for example, in India, a Buddhist community, there is no tradition of reincarnation or Lama institution. It developed in Tibet. I think some connection with feudal system. So that now today, world, I think more democratic principle, country owned by people, not individual. So therefore, like my own institution, Dalai Lama institution, I felt there's some connection, feudal system. So, as early as 1969, one of my official statement, I mentioned this very institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not up to concerned people, Tibetan people. So not necessary to keep this as our tradition. No. For example, as far as Buddhist is concerned, no Buddha's institution, no Nagarjuna's institution. This institution, I feel, very much related with feudal system. So, in Tibetan history, some lamas really wonderful, but some lamas disgrace. I think the Chosan Mushmarwe, Chosan Lama, Dugunzi should Namja Rashi do this, Kome Shamji should sabating judges.
So this master Chosan Rinpoche has said that when someone is, recognized as a reincarnation of some high lama of his predecessor, it seemed that there was some wisdom in it in recognizing the reincarnation. But when this reincarnation, the so-called reincarnation, actually, proves to be a disgrace, then.
Something I really
feel very sad.
No,
I feel sad from the depth of my heart.
So there are cases now, frankly speaking. The individual Lama utilize with the name of reincarnation, but never pay much attention for study and practice. So these Lama disgrace Buddha Dharma. So I feel that we should return original Indian tradition, no reincarnation, no Lama's institution. So certain tradition is a tradition, but very much related with feudal system and old thinking, that gone. We should be, as I mentioned earlier, we should be 21st century Buddhist, not Orthodox way. Okay. Next question. Because of media, I think a few questions from media side. Yes, one. Oh.
मैं अपना क्वेश्चन हिंदी में पूछूंगी। तो मैंने आपका मूवी देखा है, कुंदन मूवी। उस मूवी में मैंने देखा कि आपको इंडिया में इसलिए आना पड़ा क्योंकि उस टाइम पे चाइनीज़ आर्मी के इन्वेजन की वजह से, कुछ सर्कमस्टेंसेस की वजह से आपको इंडिया में आना पड़ा, जस्ट फॉर द वेलफेयर ऑफ योर ओन पीपल जो तिब्बत में हैं। तो अभी आप इतना वर्ल्ड फेमस हो गए हो, अभी आपको सभी जानते हैं सब कुछ, उसके बाद भी आपको अपना वहाँ का तिब्बत का गवर्नमेंट एंड एग्जाइल यहाँ से कंट्रोल करना पड़ रहा है। तो उसके लिए आप क्या फील करते हो? मतलब जब आप आए थे तब भी आपको यही, मतलब आप इसी चीज़ के लिए इंडिया में आए थे ना, ताकि आपकी तिब्बत ठीक रहे बोल के। तो अभी भी सब कुछ वैसा ही है, तो उसके लिए आप क्या फील करते हो इतना फेमस होने के बाद भी? मतलब इट्स बीन 68 years you are living here, but still you are controlling your government and exile of Tibet from here. So what are you feeling for that?
Karsa. Ka. Ka. There, huh? Many Tibetan, you see, they express to me, although they are very, very eager, my return. But at the same time, they much appreciate Dalai Lama remain in a free country. So Dalai Lama can do more with freedom. So that's quite logical. So my physical in India, but my mind often go to Tibet. I always remember the 6 million Tibetan people, they trust me. Their hope is to put a lot of hope put on me. So I have moral responsibility. But in order to help, now Tibet case, my main concern is Tibetan knowledge, ancient Indian knowledge, Nalanda knowledge, you due to negligence, see nothing now. Nalanda, some pigeons flying here and there. So the real knowledge of Nalanda tradition we kept since 8th century. The Nalanda master, Chandarakshita, invited to Tibet. He introduced Buddha Dharma according to Nalanda tradition. The unique thing about the Nalanda tradition is extensively used logic, not just a faith. The Chandarakshita himself, great logician and a philosopher. So his writing we still study, or one of the texts are study, like that. So therefore, my main concern is preservation of these ancient Tibetan knowledge which come from Nalanda. It's really worthwhile. I think we Tibetan knowledge, I think, including myself, I think we really serve something, promotion of Buddha Dharma. Therefore, now these knowledge, ancient Indian Nalanda knowledge, I think they're very useful to humanity, as I mentioned earlier, as an academic subject, not a religious subject, about mind, about how to transform our emotion, these things. So many scientists also now showing interest, and many scholars in the West, traditionally non-Buddhist country, but number of people really showing interest about Buddha Dharma. So, and then in order to explain or study, explanation, Tibetan language is the best language to explain these sophisticated Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist logic and Buddhist psychology, these things. Because before Buddhism came, Tibetan language is very primitive Marbe. Oh, then 8th century, Shanta Rakshita invited to Tibet when he asked Tibetan emperor, Tibetan king, since you have your own language, so these important texts should translate into Tibetan. So then each new word come from Sanskrit mainly, and Pali also. Then new words develop. So now today, Tibetan language is the most sort of closest language with Sanskrit. So therefore, now Tibetan language is, I found, best language to explain this sophisticated Buddhist philosophy, psychology, logic, these things. So I really sort of also carry also to preserve Tibetan, ancient Tibetan knowledge, and including Tibetan language. Because inside Tibet, some hardliner Chinese, you see, they sort of start, I mean, they sometimes they really control, study Tibetan language. And the big monastery, traditionally big monastery, now few hundred students, but even that, you see some Chinese introduce political study like that. So a lot of damage. My main concern is, you see, firstly, Tibetan language should keep, and inside Tibet should have, you see, freedom to keep this knowledge. I mean, that language, and then knowledge these things. So, and then environment, Tibetan or high altitude, cold climate. So some Indian ecologists, they told me there's such sort of condition, high altitude, cold climate, the once ecology damage, the nature revival take longer time. So therefore, we should pay more attention about preservation of ecology in Tibet. Because you see, sometimes the Chinese, some individual Chinese businessmen also, you see, exploiting Tibetan nature resources. So lot of area deforestation. So sometimes Chinese leaders also may develop some notice because of a lot of flood, including mainland China. So they give some or the previous one, the Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Rongxin, he gives some order to some of these area which Brahmaputra come. So deforestation must stop. So I take sort of serious sort of city concern about so they take care about ecology in Tibet. Then mainly Tibetan culture and Tibetan language. Sometimes I jokingly used to telling my Indian friend, and 1,000 years ago, you see, you Indian, we consider our guru. So we are Chela. I usually say telling, we are not only just a Chela, but a reliable Chela. So all this knowledge, ancient Indian sort of knowledge, we, over 1,000 years, we kept this knowledge. So that prove we are reliable Chela. And then also you say, sometimes I sort of teasing my Indian friend, traditionally you are our guru, we are Chela, now seems opposite. Ancient Indian Chela, now no one who really, you see, explaining these things. So out of choice, the Chela become guru. So next question. Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
मेरा आपके स्वस्थ जीवन और दीर्घायु के लिए पहले प्रार्थना है और मेरा प्रश्न है आपसे, भावनाओं को नियंत्रित करने के लिए
थैंक यू।
हमें एकाग्रता की आवश्यकता है और एकाग्रता के लिए ध्यान साधना या पूजा पद्धति अपनानी चाहिए और कौन सी पद्धति बेहतर है और क्यों है, इसके बारे में बताएं।
고물루주기 맞아 수시 고물루주기 아니 레다 녀몽 세베 타르스 레다 녀몽 녀부때니 파빵인도잖아 아니 타버터버리스 다디 레디 녀몽 광경 스보 코 편지 레디 아니 녀몽 경기와레스 다진데기 녀몽티 아니 취미식 남도래 용기와레스 취미이지게 남도디 댄징 트러블이 중요해스. 댄지 인도다 댄징 트러블을 냠부때니 슉충을 당토나 애니 취미이지게 남도디 용조레스. 대라데는 차단 용조레서 디식도.
नागार्जुन की शास्त्रों में जो कलेशों की चित्तवृत्ति हमारा मानसिक में क्यों आता है, वो इसलिए आते हैं कि हमारा मानसिक में अनेक प्रपंच विकल्प उत्पन्न होता है और प्रपंच विकल्प उत्पन्न जिसमें अधिकांशतः असत्यता के ऊपर आधारित ही रहते हैं। वह कहाँ से प्रारंभ होता है? वो प्रारंभ होता है आपकी अविद्या से। अविद्या माने जो वस्तु अपने स्वाधीनता से स्थिति नहीं है, जिसको हम एक स्वाधीनता की स्थिति को, सत्य की स्थिति को मान रहे हैं, वो हमारा अविद्या है। अविद्या को नष्ट करेंगे तो आपकी विकल्प नष्ट होगा, विकल्प नष्ट होगा तो आपके सारे समस्त कलुषित चित्तवृत्तियों की समाप्त होंगी। वहीं एकमात्र उनसे बंधन से मुक्त होने की साधन हैं। तो इसलिए ये मानसिक अभ्यास के माध्यम से होगा, उसके अतिरिक्त और कोई दूसरा जाप या तप की उपासना से संभव नहीं है।
So Master Nagarjuna in his Mula Madhyamaka Karika has said that with the elimination or through the elimination of one's karma and delusions, there is liberation. And karma and delusions, of course, they arise from this exaggerated outlook on things, which in turn is rooted in some kind of a perception of things having an independent existence. And so when you're able to actually overcome this called exaggerated outlook, for which you need to also overcome the perception of things having some kind of independent existence. I mean, when you're able to eliminate this, then the exaggerated outlook will stop, and then that will in turn lead to the cessation of karma and delusions. And so we need to actually understand the reality of things in order to be able to overcome the delusions, attachment, anger, and so forth.
I think also the important thing is that all negative emotion, such as anger, is very much based on appearances. So the appearance from Buddhist sort of terminology appears something independent, objectively exist. According to quantum physics, also you see things, the external phenomena appears independently. So now, all these negative emotion are based on appearances. Now the antidote of that, go deeper reality, then nothing exists as appears. So since destructive emotion very much based on appearances, So through wisdom, there nothing exists as appears. That's the antidote of, you see, this wrong view. Exaggerated, my way.
Yes.
So wrong view. That is the basis of destructive emotion. Now, really hopeful sign is all these destructive emotions, such as anger and too much self-centered attitude, all these very much depend on appearances. So we call some kind of ignorance. So most of these destructive emotion very much related with because of the ignorance. So the positive emotion, such as compassion, you see, not based on ignorance. So with reality, they also, like me, do not want suffering. And then naturally develop sense of concern of their well-being. There's sufficient reason, not based on ignorance. So positive emotion based on reason. Destructive emotion based on ignorance. So those emotions which based on ignorance, for temporary, sometimes very powerful, like anger. But the long run, the compassion, forgiveness, patience, these based on reason, so much powerful. So the question is, we should pay more attention. Here I myself found analytical meditation, vipassana, is much powerful than simply meditate or shamatha, single-pointed meditation. This is not much useful. Analytical meditation, wonderful. Analytical meditation is part of wisdom. The real antidote of this destructive emotion, which is based on ignorance, is, you see, the wisdom. Analyze reality and analyze long-term sort of consequences or benefit like that. So that's, although I respect all religion, but that too much emphasis on analytical meditation is, I think, Buddhism in general, particularly Nalanda tradition, is really wonderful. I myself also some experience thinking that line. Shunyata, we call it shunyata. Nothing exists as appears. Appears something objectively exists, like that. So now time come about lunch. In order to function normally, our brain, food very important. Oh yes, now picture.
We're going to take pictures, okay?